You have just read about the importance of conducting summative assessments in the classroom. As you watch this video, keep the following questions in the back of your mind. What would happen if I didn't include a rubric with the assessment? Why would I want to incorporate a variety of summative assessments? You already learned that you can use formative assessments to track work, abilities, and progress can be tracked and assessed throughout the entire learning process. But it is also imperative that teachers have proof of what the students have learned during that process. Your students need an artifact that they can carry with them when applying for future opportunities, whether it is a job or an honors level class. Summative assessments are a good tool for creating this artifact. Summative assessments generally link to a school's grading and award system. They give students a chance to prepare using clear guidelines and standards for a test or a presentation. In many cases, they are a high-pressure, high-point reward situation, and preparing for them also helps students prepare for similarly high-pressure situations they will face in real life. Summative assessments or assessment of learning can take many forms. The most common one is a formal exam, whether it is multiple choice, essay-based, or short answer. Students might be asked to complete a performance task. Students are asked to complete a task that will test a specific set of skills and/or abilities and determine what the students know and are capable of doing. For example, during a home economics or life skills lesson, students might be asked to cook a 3-course dinner or to craft a set of bookshelves. Students might be asked to give an oral presentation such as a speech or recitation of information. This can take the format of an independent assignment, where students recite information with very little prompting from the teacher, or it can take the form of question and answer. Some countries also offer standardized tests, where all students of a different grade level must answer the same questions. The outcome of these tests may have a huge impact on students' later life and the opportunities they are given. For example, in the United States, students must get a high grade on their SAT test in order to get into a good college. For as long as summative assessments have existed, they have been controversial. For example, let's say you have a student who is very shy but very smart. In a unit about Shakespeare, she knows all of the characters, all of the plays, and can even recite key passages from the text. Let's say the school requires she pass an oral exam to prove the mastery of the subject. And when she stands in front of the teacher who will be grading her presentation, this shy student becomes so nervous she completely forgets everything she knows, and as a result, she receives a bad grade. Now, anyone looking at this grade will think that she does not know anything about Shakespeare. The grade is not an accurate reflection of her knowledge. This is true about summative assessments in general. The truth is, some students are simply not good at test taking. This does not mean they are bad at school or haven't studied. This is why it's important to offer a variety of assessment options for your students. The same student who does poorly on an oral exam might get a very high mark in a written exam. It is also important to make sure students have adequate time to prepare for their assessment. And in order to prepare, they must have solid understanding of how exactly they will be assessed. Rubrics are key tools for students to see when preparing for an assessment. Anytime you are going to conduct a summative assessment, you should give your student a rubric beforehand. They allow the teacher to set out the criteria before the task is given to the students, thereby allowing everyone concerned to be aware of what is expected. The key to an effective rubric or checklist is to ensure all of the necessary and appropriate criteria are included, and sufficient distinction is made between different levels of performance so that student work can more easily be assessed. They are also very empowering to students because the students know what the expectations are and how they coincide to a particular grade. Therefore, the student has a choice. Do I want to do everything required for high marks, or am I okay doing what is required for average marks? Take a look at this example of a rubric for a letter students are being asked to write for a summative assessment. In the far left column, we see all the different subjects the students will be graded on. including sentences and paragraphs, grammar and spelling, and so on. And for each of these categories, we see the specific criteria that will lead to a specific grade. Here we see that a student who has written a perfect salutation with no capitalization and punctuation errors will receive top marks. And here we see that a student who has written a lot of sentence fragments and run-on sentences will receive the lowest marks. Make sure your students not only see a copy of this rubric before they start preparing for their assessment, but it's a good idea to go over it in class to answer any questions. This will also help guide students on the things they should focus on studying. In this example, students will know they need to pay attention to salutations, paragraph and sentence construction, spelling, and so on. Let's review. In this lesson, you learned about summative assessments. Summative assessments can be a high-pressure, high-point way of assessing student learning. Students need time to prepare for these assessments, and results will have an impact on their grade, and sometimes on their future opportunities. You learned about a few different types of summative assessments, including oral exams, written exams, and performance exams. You learned that summative exams can be controversial because they are not always a good indicator of how much a student has learned. Rather, they are an indicator of how well a student is able to prove what they have learned in a specific situation. Some students are better test takers than others. Finally, you learned the importance of providing a good rubric for students. Rubrics let them know exactly how they will be graded, and students can use this information to guide their preparations. Now is a good time to answer the questions you were asked at the beginning of this video.